Uh, I'm Chandrasekhar, and today's topic, which I'm going to deal with, is new economic policy. Let's go to the introduction of the topic. In 1991, the year 1991 is a watershed in the history of independent India, especially in the economic growth of the country, because, as everyone knows, that is the introduction of LPG policy in India. It is the year in which the government decided to open the Indian economy and usher the entry to the market economy from the previous control economy. It had opened doors for the foreign investment, and the prime minister of the country was P.V. Narasimha Rao, and finance minister was Dr. Manmohan Singh at the time. India was going through an economic crisis because of an issue with the balance of payments. The government brought about some fundamental changes in the economic structure and approach to convert into the crisis into an opportunity. Like before going into the presentation, I would like to present this flow chart, and if you have enough time, you can watch the presentation, or else these two slides gives you an appropriate idea of that. This is the flow chart regarding the 1991 economic reforms, and the next slide will be going towards salient features of that economic reforms. And firstly, as you see in this picture, 1991 economic reforms include structural reforms and stabilization measures. And under the structural reforms, the privatization, liberalization, the globalization comes under this. And in the liberalization, it includes deregulation, financial sector, tax reforms, forex reforms, and the trade policy. So let's go to the salient objectives of new economic policy 1991. There are six objectives of this new economic policy. The first one is enter into the field of globalization and make the economy more market oriented, and to reduce the inflation rate and rectify imbalances in payment, and to increase the growth rate of the economy and create enough foreign exchange reserves, to stabilize the economy and convert the economy into a market economy by removal of unwanted restrictions, like removing the barriers, and allow the international flow of goods, capital, services, technology, human resources, etc., without too many restrictions. And lastly, it enhances the participation of private players in all sectors of the economy. For this, the reserve sectors of the government was reduced to just three. Uh, the salient phases of LPG policy includes abolition of industrial licensing or permit Raj or license Raj. Public sector role diluted, means the shares were sold to private sector, and MRTP limit goes, beginning of privatization, and free entry of foreign investment and technology, abolition of phased manufacturing programs of new projects, industrial location policy liberalized, removal of mandatory convertibility costs, reduction in import tariffs, deregulation of markets, and reduction of taxes. These are the salient features of LPG policy. So let's go into the presentation in detail. The branches of new economic policy include liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Uh, the liberalization in detail explains all commercial banks were now free to fix their interest rates. This was previously done by RBI, and investment limit for small scale industries were increased to 1 crore. Indian industries were given the freedom to import capital goods. Companies were given the freedom to expand and diversify their production capacities based on market requirements. Previously, the government used to fix the maximum limit of production capacity. Restrictive trade practices were abolished, licensing was removed in the private sector, and only a few industries were required to obtain licenses, namely liquor, cigarette, industrial explosives, defense equipment, hazardous chemicals, and drugs. And the privatization, under this, the many public sector undertakings were sold to the private players, and PSU shares were sold to players. PSUs were disinvested, and it is going on even now. And the number of industries reserved to the public sector was reduced to three, that is the mining of atomic minerals, railway, and transport and atomic energy. Even now, the coal fields were given to private sector, and railways were also given into the private sector at present. The liberalization includes the tariffs were reduced, and the reduction of custom duties in import and export to attract global investors. Foreign trade policy was for the long term. Liberal and open policy was enforced for that, and the Indian currency was made partially convertible, and the equity limit of foreign investment was increased. Let's get into the impact of LPG policies. Like as we said, impact includes the positive impact as well as negative impact. Firstly, we'll go into the positive impact. The positive impact, like there are four main points regarding that. Five main points, like India's GDP growth rate increased during 1990 and 91. India's GDP rate was 1.1%, but 1991 reforms, like it increased year by year, and in 2015 to 16 it was estimated to be 7.5% by IMF, and now it is gradually decreasing again. Since 1991, India has firmly established itself as lucrative foreign investment destination, and FDI equity inflows in India in 2019 to 20 stood at 19.3 billion US dollars. Like in 1991, the employment rate was unemployment rate was high, but after India adopted new LPG policy, more employment got generated as new foreign companies came into India, and due to liberalization, many new entrepreneurs started companies. Per capita income increased due to an increase in employment, and exports have increased and stood at 26.3 billion as of October 2019. Let's go into the negative impact. In 1991, the agriculture provided employment to 72% of the population and contributed 29% to the GDP. Now, the share of agriculture in the GDP has gone down drastically to 18%. This has resulted in a lowering the per capita income of the farmers and increasing the rural indebtedness. Due to the opening up of Indian economy to foreign competition, more embassies, multinational companies were competing local businesses and companies which are facing problems due to the financial constraints, lack of advanced technology, and production inefficiencies. Globalization has also contributed to the destruction of the environment through pollution by emissions from manufacturing plants and clearing of vegetation cover. It further affects the health of the people. LPG policies have led to widening income gaps within the country. The higher growth rate is achieved by an economy at the expense of declining incomes of people who may be rendered redundant. So the next one, like to conclude this topic in the lighter vein, I would like to mention a few things. The LPG policies, whatever it is, which were introduced in 1991, in my opinion, they were like for instant relief from debt or other thing, or it can be said, in simple terms it can be said like mortgaging our country's resources, our human capital to other countries, just for the sake of income or some other things, or for the particular profit gains of politicians. Like as I mentioned before, the percentage of agriculture thing is reduced, and we have a very fertile land, and our agriculture is the backbone of the country, and it is being diluted. And the MNCs are playing a vital role in our country, where the local businessmen and everyone are facing country very very severe problems. And our country, like it is seen in the charts and the other statistics, it is being shown as India is developing and economy is growing, but we are sinking a very down to level, like which we cannot come back again. So we have to give importance to our structure. We have to create our own economy structure without being dependent on any other things. Thank you.